Thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate it's nice weather. So glad that you could join us and aren't at the pub tonight. So we're the Birmingham Architectural Association, and if you haven't been to our events before, all our events are online. We're just a collective of architects and designers, interior designers that are interested in being a voice for the Birmingham architectural community. So a lot of our events are around sort of diversity and inclusion, as well as sort of learning, business lectures and so on. But behind me, you'll see kind of our sponsors. So we've got Alamure, who are our patron sponsor, All Good, Outro, Ibstock Brick, Kitchen Gallery, Milliken, Reynars, Taylor Maxwell, and thanks to those, we are able to put on all our events for free for everyone and make all our events as inclusive as possible. But if you haven't seen an event or research that you want to do, we're really open to any ideas. So do email us at baa@brumarchitecture.com, and also if you're not part of the newsletter. But let me hand you over to Peter Marcus and Alison Duran, who are going to be hosting the event tonight and introducing you to Lisa. So Peter's got his own practice, really experimental and collaborative, looking at wood bending materials and an Airbnb sort of development in this amazing cabin, but I'm sure he can tell you more about that in a second. And Alison's got a keen interest in sort of historic architecture, and alongside that is a keen sort of textile and stitcher. But that's enough for me, and I hope you enjoy it, and I'm really excited to find out about franchises a bit more. So hand you over. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, just a quick introduction about Lisa as well. So Lisa got started in the business by necessity after being made redundant for the second time as her family started to grow. She built her practice based in the domestic sector, finding huge potential in a specific niche, and then invested in it to turn her business into the Pride Road franchise. She's had a seat at the RIBA Council since 2015 to 2018 and been chair of Women in Property NW and founder Manchester Curious, an urban architecture outreach festival. Pride Road franchise grew out of founder Lisa's refusal to accept that there was only one way for women to have an architectural career and a family life. It is a complete architectural practice in a box and honed marketing and business system and full technical support. Pride Road is building its network of franchise across the UK with the aim of providing rewarding careers for ambitious architects who can't find the right role for them in opening their own businesses, and they want to reach out to the support team. A key element of Pride Road's business model is to ensure that each franchise has a self-confidence and skills to effectively market themselves and their business. So I guess without further ado, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Peter. I don't think I need to say anything because you said everything in the introduction. The end. Okay, I better talk. It's really weird. I can just see 3 people on the screen, so I know that there's sort of participants, 19 participants in the watching. So hi everybody. So I'm going to take you through a PowerPoint. I don't really want to do too much death by PowerPoint, so I'm just going to start with, that's my logo, Pride Road, the architecture our home deserves. Oh, why is that not working? Ah, it is now. So it is mainly a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to give you some takeaways that you might be able to apply to your own business. So have a pen and paper handy because you might pick up some tips. There's going to be a Q&A at the end. In fact, there's going to be some questions shortly. If you want to find out more, email me lisa@prideroad.co.uk. So things I want to plug, I'm hosting Sheroes of Architecture, 12th to the 14th of May. It's a a conference, an architectural conference dedicated to women. I've got a whole host of international female architect speakers, and we're running it 4 till 7 p.m. UK time on Wednesday the 12th, Thursday the 13th, and Friday the 14th of May. We've got some amazing speakers. We're going to be talking about practice, we're going to be talking about career development, we're going to be talking about kind of balancing practice and life as well. So Sheer Rose of Architecture, it's 19 quid a ticket for everything, which is awesome. So I think you guys are going to pop a link into this talk. So I'm looking at the Peter and Alison. I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting nods. So if you can put a link in, that's ace.
Yeah, there's one inside the chat now for us.
Yay, thank you. What else am I plugging? If you're on Clubhouse, we run a room called Constructive Together on Mondays at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. DM me if you want me to add you as a co-host. We talk about, it's a good construction referral platform. So, you know, there's developers on there, there's property investors, planners. So it's just general kind of chitty chat. And I run a podcast called Architecture in the Den. Get in contact if you'd like to join me as a guest. You can find it on YouTube and Spotify, etc., all good channels. Oh, that's the Heroes of Architecture sort of poster. So we've got some really cool people coming. Right, questions. So if you can answer this in the chat, is that how we want people to answer the questions? Yes, I'm getting nods. Are you thinking of starting your own practice? What are your considerations? And if you've got your own practice, what's the biggest challenge? Okay, so have a little think about that. I'm going to play you a video, just sort of talking to my franchisees about how we sort of tackled COVID. But if you can if you can sort of pop those questions in the chat, we'll kind of hopefully answer them later. Right, how do I do this? This may or may not work. Oh, there's me blinking. That's not very pleasant. Well, let's try this again. So it's about a 5-minute video. Hi, I'm Lisa Rains from the Architectural
Sounds working.
Pride Road. Brilliant. So the pandemic, COVID, lockdown 2020 has brought loads of challenges. So let's hear what the franchisees have to say.
Well, when we first heard about the pandemic, I panicked and I was actually quite scared already, having started my business. So I think I just probably wondered if I'd done the right thing. I was trying to break even by a certain time and I was mainly panicking that I wouldn't, and how on earth would we survive?
At the start of the first lockdown, I was really lost because most of our work with the clients is face-to-face, where we were meeting them in their houses.
Lisa very quickly used clients that she had in her existing pipeline to trial doing online workshops. She videoed how she did them, and then she sent us the videos and we had lots of phone calls, and we learned by watching her and then trialed that same system on our first clients. And then the other thing we did was quite a big marketing campaign. We did a PDF campaign, which I'd never have had a clue how to do or even to do it. And we set about phoning lots of people that we set sent these PDFs to, which gave us the beginnings of some leads after the phones had all just totally dried up.
It's been great today. So I've had Magda at the house twice, which has been really good. And then we just had a follow-up workshop using an online tool, which has been brilliant. It's been just as good as having her sat here in front of us, because really clear on the home computer, lots of detail on the drawings. Still felt like you got that personal touch, if you like. So yeah, it's worked really well. During the pandemic, we started to meet regularly once a week for a short follow-up. So this was a very nice social contact that would kind of bring up all the improvements or any ideas or to develop any new ideas and put them very quickly into our strategy and way of that we work.
Spent a long time during lockdown playing with Lego, and then sent us some Lego to also use for our clients during our prospects, to show them different roof types and explain different planning strategies.
As well as meeting on Zoom regularly, it was important for everybody's mental health to actually have some face-to-face contact time, whether it was off the motorway on the M6 in a service station en route to various family holidays, or on my canal boat in the pouring rain in Rugby, or a spontaneous meet-up in London when just before further lockdown announcements were being made. When it came to Christmas, instead of having a Christmas party, which we were all disappointed we couldn't have, we ran a bake-off competition instead, and we had our technical associate, Alan, judging.
I'd love to. So this is my house. It's triple glazed, zero carbon, half golden syrup, half treacle gingerbread house.
Yeah, and so I'm going to go for the southern entry, and I noticed that the chimney's big enough to fit a rotund Father Christmas into it.
As well as managing the franchisees, it was also important to grow the business and increase brand awareness. So I launched a podcast called Architecture in the Den, which is now available on Spotify. And we featured the incoming RIBA president, Simon Alford.
It seems to be doing well. It seems to be solid enough that even with this third lockdown and it being January, which I think is normally quite quiet, I'm still getting inquiries. Even I feel like I don't have to work super hard on the marketing. What I'm doing, I know what works, and if I just carry on doing a decent amount of that, inquiries come in, and I've got plenty of projects on the go now, so it feels a lot more established. And I feel confident in what I'm doing.
My business is really thriving, and it's a lot of our clients stay at home and want to improve their houses because they are surrounded by the walls and.
As we headed into lockdown 3, consolidation of our business systems was key. So we've now got a more robust filing system, tightened processes, and started meetings with our technicians, so it's more collaborative. Business under lockdown is booming. We've all seen an increase in our workload and turnover, and we're now actively recruiting more franchisees and have a few in our pipeline.
Oh, hold on. I need to try and stop this before it goes off again. So hopefully that's given everyone time to, have we got some questions?
We do. So we've got, I think it's Mitesh who's put challenges, generating leads and then avoiding all the low fee projects when non-architects are competing for.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Generating leads. Any others? Okay. What we'll do, I'll run through the talk and then we'll come back to that if I've not already covered it. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Oh. So play from current slide. Right, so why franchise as a business structure? Okay, so success rate for franchises are greater than 90%, making this the lowest failure rate of any business type. So I think when people set up on their own, it takes them a long time to actually break even. And then there's loads of things that can trip you up, like cash flow, sector, clients, bad debts, resourcing, legal issues, company structure. Whereas within franchising, we've got those models all set up. So you just pick it out and apply. Oops. Ooh. During times of economic uncertainty, more people focus on improving their existing home in order to add value. So this is talking about our niche. And we just focus on domestic extensions. Why do we do that? Well, it is a huge market. Back in 2017, it was worth £109 billion, the construction value, and 7.96 of that was refurb and maintenance to private housing. Therefore, we can, the equivalent we've kind of worked out is about £8.3 billion. That's the market. We've got 155 territories. I've split the country into 155 territories across the UK, and we know that each territory is sustainable, and it's based on 70,000 owner-occupier homes within a 20-minute travel distance. So the Pride Road franchise brand is very sticky. So if you join a franchise, you get the benefit of kind of like that mass advertising. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard of Pride Road at all, but what we do within our kind of territories is we have kind of a big marketing campaign across social media. And our branding is very consistent and familiar. And so, you know, I don't know, sort of people need to see a brand, or they used to need to see a brand at least 17 times before they think about the brand in relation to the need that they've got. And what we find is that clients often say they've heard about Pride Road from many sources. And Laura, our new franchisee down in New Forest and Bournemouth, and that was an area that was completely not marketed to before she came on board. Within sort of 6 months, she was finding that you know, the branding came across as very professional, and she just got loads and loads and loads of inquiries. So as a franchisee, everyone gets the branding, an operations manual, which is like a guide to how to run the business, a shared portfolio. So you can use our images, so images of clients, images of work. You can, so when clients are asking for projects that you've done before, you can point to those. We've got a proven business model. We give you sector training because we know one of the main issues for people setting up on their own is a lack of confidence. And so, you know, if you've just been doing toilet details for 3 years, you might have lost a bit of confidence in kind of going into a new sector. Well, we'll provide all that sector training back up with comprehensive CPDs about vernacular architecture. We do sales and marketing training, we do lead generation, we do coaching and image styling, which I think is really important in just just getting confidence back up. We've got established websites, which are high for sort of architect search terms, and we work quickly to establish in new territories, sort of when people do local searches for architects in their areas, that we come up on that first page of Google. We've got an established social media presence, Facebook pages, etc., etc. So why join a franchise? Well, we've been working in residential architecture for 10 years and we're constantly innovating. There's always a new update to our CRM system to improve processes, whether it's automating site meeting agendas, tracking fees, projecting cash flow, or a new marketing initiative. Or as you saw in the video before, ways to tackle COVID, you've got joint heads, we can get our heads together, we can problem solve quite quickly. Right, okay, so about me, as Peter mentioned before, I'm a chartered architect with over 20 years experience. I'm just looking at my certificates, I think I might be about 23 years experience now. I'm a mum, I've got 3 kids. My eldest is 18 and transgender, so we've been on quite a journey with that. I've got a daughter doing GCSEs, so we're juggling that, and a son who is just going into leaving primary school. So all the challenges. I've got 2 stepkids, a dog, a cat, and a narrowboat. So last week I was actually in Birmingham. I don't know if you guys have seen this before or know if it's real, spotted this. It's a I think it's a Banksy. I don't know whether it's been authenticated or not, or claimed by him, but it had been covered over with plexiglass. It was around the Gas Street basin. So we brought the boat up from Rugby to Birmingham, and then in that first week after we'd come out of lockdown, we spent a week on the boat, me, husband, and our dog. And this was probably one of the most exciting trips that we did. We went under Spaghetti Junction. It was amazing. If you've not been there or walked under Spaghetti Junction or taken a canal boat, I would highly recommend it. It is incredible. There's just bridges and railway bridges and slip roads, and there's canals crossing, and you can see all these different bridges going over. It's definitely worth a trip. So more about me. Yes, I've been on the RIBA Council. I've chaired Women in Property. I'm a business owner, franchisor, podcaster, and Danger Lady is my Shiro alter ego. So that's my podcast again, Architecture in the Den. It's worth a listen. It's not just me talking, it's me sort of interviewing lots and lots of different people. We've had Simeon Stubenov on there, Flora Samuel, Simon Alford, and then Ryan Willard talking about a business of architecture, Stephen Drew about how to kind of get a new job, and sort of lots of stories in between. So it's definitely worth a listen. That's me as Danger Lady. So that was another plug for Shiros of Architecture. Right, so back to Pride Road. Right, so I made these set of slides just to engage with clients. So it was part of a bit of a marketing. I don't know if you guys do any kind of networking like BNIs and you want to kind of try and stand out from the crowd. So I made this next series of slides just to say, we're architects, but we don't do tall buildings. We're architects, but we don't do sort of large scale heritage. These are projects that I've worked on in the past. We don't do master planning. We don't do commercial. What we do is single story and 2-story extensions, and we do them very well. And we specialize in happy clients. And what's kind of the reason why niching is really important to us is that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. You know how to handle sort of all aspects of the project. You're not spending time in researching. You can just concentrate on delivering a great service. And what we do is if we do, and we do get plenty of inquiries for other types of work, I refer them to other architects. So who might specialize in HMOs or commercial or passive houses or whatever. So I refer work to them, and they refer back the sort of single story and 2-story extensions. So these are kind of like tips, if you are in practice, I'd say find your niche, and by sort of being niche, we've been able to multiply. Identify your clients. So think about who your best client is. Are they male or female? How old are they? What level of education? Where would you find them? What do they watch? What do they read? What do they listen to? And we know who our clients is. They're homeowners or the first-time buyers, empty nesters, young professionals, young families. Oh, empty nesters twice. Oh, retirees. And we can find them on Facebook or in young professional groups or in mums groups. Sorry. Sorry. So we also know what they watch. Grand Designs, Homemade Perfect, New House, New Home, etc., etc. And we know how to get to them. So we do it in Facebook groups, Instagram, and try and align ourselves, with brands. We do a lot of Google SEO and Google ads and Facebook ads. So by the time clients find us or book an appointment with us, they are they're ready to buy, because we've got a kind of very deep website that's got loads of information on it. So so clients kind of like get to know us before they meet us. And so at the end of the day, we're not competing on price. People understand how we work and compete, and so it's about kind of the quality, and it's all about that brand and reinforcing that brand. So sort of like one thing that I learned early on in order to franchise the business was about systemizing our process. And it's all about not reinventing the wheel every time. So once we get an inquiry, they'll either come from website or people booking directly into our diary. We lead them into a booking system. So on our website, everything points to this make an inquiry page. People will put in the first part of their postcode, and then it'll direct them to me or Magda or Laura or whoever else, and then they'll just choose from simple service. That just goes straight into our diary. And so there's no faffing about with appointment times. They put their information in, and then that's brought into our CRM system. So each inquiry establishes a record. So the way our process works, we go and see, we used to see clients in their homes, but now we do a COVID comprehensive chat on Zoom. So we always offer a 1 hour free initial consultation, that's spelled wrong. And I think, you know, we find we can use sort of Google and Rightmove. We find that it saves hours in wasted email correspondence by just, you've got that 1 hour to talk to your clients, establish the brief, establish your values, understand their project, and tell them how you're going to work. And in it, we start to fill out all the contact information. We establish fees and key things like, do they own their property? Because if they don't, then that's not going to work. And this is all about qualifying the clients and making sure clients understand how your system works. You know, making sure that they're kind of tech savvy enough. You establish good kind of communication strategies. And on this, we kind of establish how much they paid for the property, values, and if what their budget is, to make sure that it's realistic. And then we use that information to generate briefs. So that's a record, and it's a nice kind of PDF document. We tell them about CDM, health and safety. And then that information's in our system. We can even turn it into fee proposals. During the session, we try and engage with the client. People buy from people, and we've been using Lego during lockdown to explain things. And then our next stage is a concept design workshop. It's paid for. It's 3 hours. Sorry. At the moment, we're working on Zoom. They're 2 hours, £300 plus VAT. And that's the point where we establish our value with the drawings. You saw Magda in the video earlier. You saw a setup looking down at her while she was on. So we've got cameras and stuff set up. And we use stencils, and we draw in real time with the clients watching us in real time. Okay, I'm going to flick through some of this because I think I've just talked through quite a lot. But then you can see how our system just generates fee proposals. So these are all preset templates. They're constantly updated with kind of just new bits of legislation and kind of site issues that we've found, just to make sure that we're always relevant. And then when a project turns into a proper project, once we've had the go ahead, then we get subcontractors to help us with planning applications, building regulations. And we do offer a pre-start meeting because we do, you know, it is essential to have face-to-face meetings with clients and builders. Okay, I'm going to stop there, I think, and just, I think, answer some questions. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was really, really great. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was scribbling some things down myself. I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is particularly with the top 10 tips. I like the idea about not just identifying your niche, but actually also coming up with systems. Because I mean, I sort of set up my business straight out of university, and I'd say most of the time has been spent just researching things and setting up your model, and I've got this kind of mentor, and I was talking to him the other day, and he actually, funny enough, he actually said, I do hope you don't plan to sort of like change the business model too much, sort of referencing the fact that there's just so much which goes into kind of setting up the system, I think. And but one of the first questions I was actually going to ask, which is kind of like building on top of that, is not just how did you win your early project, but also was probably almost a second question as well, was what were some of the mistakes you made sort of early into setting up the franchise, and how did you learn from those?
Oh God, setups, made so many mistakes. So I mean, I remember an early one was trying to work out what software I was going to use, and then trying to buy a machine that could cope with it. So I think it was like AutoCAD, and then I bought a kind of laptop that I thought was big enough to cope with it, and it wasn't. You're like, oh, that's a couple of grand down the drain. Not an awful lot you can do about that. You're like, oh God. I mean, so now actually we don't use CAD. We do everything hand drawn. So I'm talking to you on a little sort of MacBook Air, and that's all I've got. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you did have a practice before you actually started your franchise. So it'd be quite interesting to know what experience you had before you had your practice, which then led that idea of just turning it into a franchise.
Yeah, so I set up as Rains Architecture back in 2010, and that was like, oh, that's my name, that's what my business is going to be called, Rains Architecture, because I couldn't say Rains Architect, but architect singular sounds like not quite right, so architecture, and then you're kind of like into the realms of, well, not you anyone can call themselves something architecture, how do you set yourself aside? But anyway, I went with it, and it was that practice really that I turned into Pride Road. So it's the same company, we just changed the name. So just changed the name in Company's House. We rebranded in sort of 2015. So I had the idea about the franchise back in 2012, because by then I kind of realized that I'd hit on a practice that worked. So, stripped away working in different sectors. I'd systemized the business. So if you can see, sorry, my daughter's behind me. We've been on here for quite a while. Ask Ian, he's organising. Oh, sorry. Close the door. Thank you. Sorry. Right, so there's a calendar here. Can you see it? Right, so, oh, I've got pins and needles. Okay, so I've been keeping these calendars since 2012. And on it, I've marked on, there's different coloured dots that mean different things. So we've got inquiries, prospects, which is that free initial consultation, workshops, and then follow-up, which then turns in, you know, and at the follow-up we find out whether it's going to turn into a project or not, and then a pre-start meeting. So you can start to track the numbers, so you can see those conversion rates, you can see how many inquiries turn into a prospect, how many prospects turn into a workshop, how many workshops into a project. I can't remember the question, but once you know once you know your numbers, then you can backplay, you know, say it takes 10 prospects to turn into a project, say, you know, and then say, you know, that 20 in that, sorry, right, say every 2 inquiries convert into a prospect, and every, say, 2 prospects turn into a workshop, you know that each prospect is worth 150 quid because your workshop's paid, and each inquiry is worth 75 quid. So then you can work out your marketing campaigns. If a marketing campaign generates 3 inquiries, you know your kind of return on investment. So that came from a mistake, because I'd missed a client appointment. I double booked someone, and I just thought, how on earth am I going to remember? And I thought, oh, I know, I'll just put a dot, you know, a physical reminder on my calendar. And then it just turned into something else. Yeah, so missing appointments, I was keeping paper diaries, everything was all getting mixed up, and then I went, right, okay, let's look at a systemized booking system. And we've been through a few different ones. I'm now on Zoho bookings, but I tried Schedule once and 10 to 8, and now I'm on booking.com, but they're the same principles. You get the clients to put in their details, and it's a good way of working out if a client is tech savvy or not. Because if your client's not tech savvy, you know, it's going to be a right pain to work with them. I'm guessing also, no. And then workshops. I kind of had, I think I had a couple of bad debts from workshops where, you know, they didn't pay me, so I kind of then don't release the drawings until I've been paid for them.
So you learned from that mistake of them not paying you in you released the drawings expecting to be paid, and then you sort of learned from that.
Yeah, and then once they've paid you 300 quid for a workshop, you're set up in their bank. So, you know, you just start getting the clients into a good, turn them into good clients, really. Listen, there's 2 podcasts that I've done. Architecture in the Den with Ryan Willard, we talk about payments, and Architecture in the Den with Sue Butcher, and we talk about identifying clients, and it applies to whatever type of business or architectural business you've got. It's kind of like quite useful stuff. Yeah, so that, you know, that's just 3 examples, but it's just every time we kind of like, you make a mistake, we pick it up. And we had one today. We had a CPD. I've got this amazing technician, Alan, who is on our team, and he gives us CPDs. He's dead old school, and he writes handwritten notes. And we were talking about drainage surveys and the best. So he's like, yeah, everyone needs a drainage survey. I'm like, right, okay, well, actually, how do we, because it's another cost to the client, and you're like, at what point do we introduce it? How do we explain it to the client? that, you know, that it's important? How do we identify that we need it? So yeah, so I've got I need to pick it up, and what I'll do is I'll just slot it into our CRM system, just as an aide memoir, so we know that at, you know, this email stage, you know, we'll prompt the client to, you know, book a drain survey, and it'll needs to get done before we do actually start doing the CAD drawings. Yeah, because if there's a drain in the wrong place, you might want to redesign the extension.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just things like that. We can pick that up. You know, don't necessarily need it for the concept design, but you know, before you kind of submit the planning drawings, that's useful. And then yeah, we had a CPD this morning called "What Lies Beneath," and these are my notes that Alan gave us. They're amazing. This is what you get as part of a franchise, kind of like really old school, kind of like notes on you know, where kind of meters, services come into the building and stuff, and kind of like different types of foundation solution. What was the other one? The other one was about establishing, doing a trial hole and making sure, and we think before the client commissions the building regs drawings, that someone digs a trial hole, because structural engineers never do it. They just assume standard foundations. And if you've got a project that is on the brink of whether it's going to be viable or not, you know, you can spend another 5 to 10 grand in the ground, you know, if you're not careful. So, you know, so again, I've taken that information and we'll put that into the CRM system, just to make sure that we pick it up, the architects pick it up at the right stage, wave a flag in front of the client and go, come on, you know, you need to do this, get it done. And it just becomes part of a list of things to do. And it's about kind of making clients accountable as well. Especially, you know, they're all lay clients, and even if actually they're in construction, they're still lay clients because they've never done the build in the, you know, domestic setting. Does that answer your question?
I think it does, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay, next question. Did that? I'm just wondering if we answered that first question properly. I think so. It was, that first question was about low fees. We don't compete on fees. We compete on service and stuff. Because if you're competing on fees, it's a race to the bottom. Because there'll be someone who's cheaper, and always someone that's cheaper.
I was going to ask, is there like any funding available for this business model? Like, you know, if someone was looking to join the franchise, is there any way for them to obtain any funding as part of it, or would they have to source that all themselves?
I am I'm in a position where I'm kind of happy to fund the franchisees coming in. So if it's you know, if it's an issue of not being able to get hold of the franchise license fee to join, then, you know, we can fund it. It's about having that commitment, you know, for the 5 years, seeing it. The way that it works, you're not going to break even for the first 6 months. So you need to just have a bit of support for that 6 months. Now I wouldn't be providing that capital what do they call it, capital support. If they were to go out and get a loan, then, you know, they'd have a lump sum in their bank account that they could put, you know, a few grand towards just keeping the, you know, keeping you're paying household bills and stuff like that until it pays. And but the good thing about the franchise is that you know that you break even at 6 months, and then you, rather than if you've got your own practice, you know, it can be a couple of years before you're breaking even, you know, if you survive.
I think we probably have time for one more question, because we know that you've got to disappear, so you can go and get yourself a little tea break. I was wondering whether you could draw on any similarities between, you know, the 2008-2010 economic crash that you would have experienced around the time you were setting up your own practice, to possibly just the COVID situation that we've got in our hands now.
I mean, what we found in 2010 was, I mean, all sectors collapsed, really. I was at a larger practice, or a medium-sized practice, and we were doing kind of residential, so all funding for that stopped straight away. Then we were doing universities, and even universities kind of put a halt on their kind of capital expenditure at the time. And I think we ended up, you know, I ended up being kind of just shifted around sectors into, I think, some PFI schools. So yeah. So really, when I set up on my own, it was mainly residential. It wasn't just residential that I wanted to. I originally wanted to go into social housing, but I found it really hard as a new sort of venture. I found it really hard to break into. It was the fees are atrocious, so it doesn't really stand up as a decent business model, and it was hard to break into, and ended up kind of like being asked to do speculative work for nothing, and you're like, well, that's not going to feed my family. And so COVID, because I've not been involved in other sectors, you know, oh, bye Peter, he's disappeared. Because I've not been involved in other sectors, I don't know how they've fared, but there's been a huge demand in kind of extensions. People are extending, and what you find in I think I said it before, in residential, in kind of extensions, is it's always buoyant, you know, whether the market's up or down. It just seems to kind of just level out. People are always extending.
Brilliant. Well, I think we will finish up there and let you go and get your tea break before your next meeting. Thank you very much for today.
It's a pleasure.
Anyone who's still watching, you can obviously still catch up with Lisa, and if you've got any questions, we've got a few that have come from Eventbrite, so we'll forward them to you for you to answer if you don't mind.
Yeah, if you want to send them with email address, I can kind of send. Yeah, and if anyone wants to email me directly, lisa@prideroad.co.uk, or, you know, I'm on most of the social medias, LinkedIn, Instagram.
We'll obviously be putting this recording out anyway, so we can make sure that we share it with you, Lisa, and you can share it as well. Thank you very much for my co-host Peter as well. It was lovely to meet you, Lisa. I really enjoyed listening to you and your model. And I'd just like to say thank you to our patron sponsor, Alamure, and our other sponsors, All Good, Altro, Ipstock, Kitchen Gallery, Milliken, Rainers, Taylor Maxwell, who make all of this possible. So thank you very much for all tuning in. And if you can turn up to our next event, which is next week, which is with Bon Bryant, tune in for that. It would be great if you just check out on Eventbrite and all of our other social media platforms as well. Great. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Cheers, Lisa.